The massive silver ship hung in the sky above Seoul like a second moon. It had arrived 3 days ago, and the world had not stopped watching since. Kang Tae-ho stood at the window of the United Nations building, his coffee growing cold in his hands. He was a translator, nothing more. He spoke 7 languages fluently and had spent his career helping diplomats understand each other. But today, he would help humanity speak to the stars. "They are ready for you," said Park Sua, his childhood friend. She was a scientist who studied alien biology, though until last week, that had been a theoretical field. Now it was very real. "The delegation is landing in 10 minutes. Tae-ho nodded and set down his coffee. He straightened his tie and took a deep breath. "Do we know anything about them yet?" "They call themselves the Keth," Sua said, walking beside him down the long hallway. "They rule 12 star systems. Their technology is thousands of years ahead of ours. And they are here to decide if humanity deserves to join something called the Galactic Concord." "No pressure then," Tae-ho said with a small laugh. Su did not laugh. "Tae-ho, if this goes wrong, Earth could be isolated forever. Or worse." He understood. The weight of the moment pressed down on his shoulders like a mountain. But he had learned long ago that fear helped no one. So he buried it deep and walked toward the great hall where history would be made. The Keth ship landed in the plaza outside. It made no sound, which somehow made it more terrifying. The doors opened, and the aliens stepped out into Earth's sunlight for the first time. Tae-ho's breath caught in his throat. They were humanoid, but wrong in subtle ways. Their skin was pale gray, smooth like polished stone. Their eyes were large and dark, without visible pupils. They moved with perfect grace, each step calculated and precise. But the strangest thing was their faces. They had no expression, not blank like someone hiding their feelings. Truly empty, like masks carved from marble. Their mouths were thin lines that never curved. Their eyes never widened or narrowed. It was like looking at beautiful statues that had learned to walk. There were 12 of them, dressed in flowing robes of deep purple and black. They walked in perfect formation toward the great hall. World leaders stood waiting, nervous sweat on their brows despite the cool air. Cameras broadcast every moment to billions of watching eyes. Tae-ho took his position near the front, ready to assist with any communication problems. The Keth had sent translation data ahead, and the computers could handle basic speech. But diplomacy was about more than words. It was about understanding. The lead Keth stepped forward. He was tall, his gray skin darker than the others, and he wore a crown of black metal. His voice was deep and flat when he spoke. "I am Ambassador Keth Forn. We come on behalf of the Galactic Concord to assess your species. You have 7 days to prove your worth." The words hung in the air like a sentence. Tae-ho saw the world leaders exchange worried glances. 7 days to prove that humanity deserved to exist among the stars. 7 days to show they were more than primitive creatures on a small blue planet. The formal ceremony began. Speeches were given. Gifts were exchanged. Tae-ho watched and listened, helping where he could, trying to read the aliens who could not be read. Their faces gave nothing away. Every word they spoke was flat and measured. It was like negotiating with machines. Then something unexpected happened. A young Keth female walked forward to present a ceremonial object to the Korean president. She was smaller than the others, her robes a lighter shade of purple, and she moved with a grace that seemed almost delicate. Tae-ho later learned she was Princess Valera, youngest daughter of the Keth Emperor himself. As she climbed the 3 small stairs to the stage, her foot caught on the unfamiliar step. She stumbled forward, the ceremonial object slipping from her hands. Tae-ho moved without thinking. He caught her arm, steadying her before she could fall. The object landed safely in his other hand. It was instinct, nothing more. He had seen someone about to fall and had reached out to help. She looked at him. Those dark, expressionless eyes met his, and for a moment, everything was still. "Are you all right?" Taeho asked softly. And because he was relieved she had not fallen, because he wanted to put her at ease in this strange and overwhelming moment, he smiled. It was a warm smile, genuine and kind. The kind of smile he gave to friends and strangers alike. The kind of smile that said everything is okay without needing words. Princess Valera froze. Her entire body went rigid. Her dark eyes widened, the first expression Taeho had seen on any Keth face. Around them, the other Keth delegates had stopped moving. They were all staring at him with something that looked almost like shock. The silence stretched. Then Princess Valera spoke, her voice clear and ringing through the great hall. "This one, he will be my bondmate." Taeho blinked. "I'm sorry, what?" The hall erupted into chaos. Cameras flashed. Officials shouted. The world leaders looked at each other in confusion. Suov pushed through the crowd to reach Taeho's side, her face pale. "What did you do?" She whispered urgently. "I just smiled," Taeho said, completely lost. She was going to fall, so I helped her and I smiled. That's all. But the Keth did not seem to think that was all. The ambassador stepped forward, his flat voice now carrying something that might have been anger. "Princess Valera, you cannot make such declarations to an alien, to a primitive. This is beneath your station." "I have made my choice," Valera said calmly. She had not looked away from Taeho. "He showed me his soul. By our oldest laws, I claim him." "His soul?" Taeho repeated weakly. "I just smiled." Valera tilted her head, studying him like he was the strange one. "Yes," she said. "You smiled. Do you not understand what that means?" He did not understand. Nobody understood. But as security teams moved in and diplomats began shouting over each other and the world watched in stunned disbelief, Taeho realized that his simple smile had just changed everything. Somewhere in the chaos, Sua grabbed his arm. "We need to get you out of here," she said. Now, as he was rushed from the hall, Taeho looked back one last time. Princess Valera stood perfectly still among the chaos, her dark eyes following him. And on her gray, expressionless face, something had changed. He could not name it. He could not understand it. But something in the way she looked at him made his heart beat faster. All he had done was smile. And now an alien princess had claimed him as her future husband. The world would never be the same. Kang Taeho sat in a small gray room surrounded by people he did not know. Government officials, military officers, scientists, and diplomats, all of them staring at him like he had committed a terrible crime. "Tell us again," said the woman in the black suit. She was some kind of intelligence officer. "Tell us exactly what you did." "I caught her arm," Taeho said for the 10th time. "She was falling. I stopped her from falling. And then I smiled. That is all. That is everything." "There must be something else," the officer pressed. A gesture, a word, something that triggered this response. There was nothing else. The door opened and Sua entered. She looked tired, like she had not slept all night. Dark circles hung under her eyes, but there was also excitement there, the excitement of a scientist who had discovered something incredible. "I know what happened," she said. "I've been studying their biology files all night. I know why she reacted that way." Everyone turned to look at her. "The Keth cannot smile," Sua explained. "Their facial muscles are completely different from ours. They have no ability to change their expressions. Their faces are frozen from birth to death." The intelligence officer frowned. "So they found his smile strange." "That doesn't explain. You don't understand," Sua interrupted. "To them, a smile is not just unusual. It is legendary. Their oldest religious texts describe something called the light of the soul. It is said that only the most divine beings can show their inner spirit on their face. For thousands of years, the Ketha believed that this was just a myth, something impossible. She looked at Teho, and then you smiled at their princess. You showed her your soul, Teho. At least, that is what she believes. The room was silent. That's insane, Teho said. It's just a smile. Everyone smiles. Babies smile. Dogs smile. It means nothing. To us, it means nothing, Suwa agreed. But to them? To a species that has never seen such a thing. You performed a miracle right in front of their princess. And according to Keth tradition, showing your soul to someone is the most intimate act possible. It is how they propose marriage. Teho felt the blood drain from his face. I proposed to her? In her eyes, yes. And she accepted. He stood up so fast his chair fell over. But I didn't mean to. I didn't know. Can't we just explain that it was an accident? One of the diplomats shook his head. We tried. The princess will not listen. She says that intention does not matter. The act was performed. The bond was made. In Keth law, it is unbreakable. Then I'll just refuse, Teho said desperately. I'll tell her I don't want to marry her. She'll have to accept that. The room grew very quiet. What? Teho looked around at the uncomfortable faces. What aren't you telling me? The diplomat sighed. If you refuse directly, it will be seen as the greatest possible insult to the Keth Empire. The princess is the emperor's daughter. Rejecting her would be like rejecting their entire civilization. It could start a war. A war? Teho felt like the room was spinning. Over a smile? Over what that smile means to them, yes. He sat back down heavily, his mind racing. This morning, he had been a simple translator. Now he was at the center of an intergalactic incident. One wrong move could doom humanity. One wrong word could start a war. What am I supposed to do? He asked quietly. Nobody had an answer. 3 days passed. Teho was kept in a secure location while the world's leaders tried to find a solution. News of the incident had spread everywhere. His face was on every screen. Some people thought it was romantic. Others thought it was terrifying. Everyone had an opinion. On the 4th day, he was summoned to a diplomatic meeting. The Keth ambassador sat on one side of the long table. Princess Valera sat beside him, her dark eyes fixed on Teho the moment he entered. She had not spoken to him since that first day, but she watched him constantly. We have discussed this matter with the Galactic Concord, the ambassador said flatly. They had agreed to observe. A screen on the wall flickered to life. Strange alien faces appeared, dozens of different species, all watching with interest. Teho realized with horror that this was being broadcast across the galaxy. The princess has made her declaration, the ambassador continued. By Keth law, it is binding. However, we recognize that your species has different customs. Therefore, we offer a compromise. Teho leaned forward. What kind of compromise? You will not be forced to complete the bond immediately. Instead, you will undergo a period of courtship. You will spend time with the princess. You will learn our ways, and she will learn yours. At the end of this period, you may make your final decision. And if I still refuse? The ambassador's flat voice grew colder. Then you must prove that humanity has a valid reason. You must prove that your species is worthy of making such a choice. If you cannot prove your worth, the refusal will stand as an insult, and there will be consequences. The alien faces on the screen watched silently. Teho understood now. This was not just about him and the princess. This was about humanity's place in the universe. The galaxy was watching to see what humans were made of. I'll do it, he said. The courtship, I mean. I'll try to understand. For the first time, Princess Valera spoke. Her voice was soft, almost gentle. You will not regret this. I will show you who we are, and you will show me who humanity is. I have one condition, Tejo said, surprising himself with his own courage. You have to let me ask questions too. I want to understand why you chose me. Really understand. Valera tilted her head. You showed me your soul. Is that not reason enough? No, Tejo said honestly. Where I come from, a smile is just a greeting, a sign of friendship. It doesn't mean love. It doesn't mean marriage. If you want me to take this seriously, you have to help me understand. The ambassador looked like he wanted to object, but Valera raised a hand to silence him. Very well, she said. I will teach you. And perhaps, in teaching you, I will learn something too. She stood and walked around the table until she was standing directly in front of him. Up close, he could see that her gray skin was smooth and flawless, her dark eyes deep and endless. You are strange, she said quietly, so only he could hear. Your face moves like water. It shows everything you feel. Fear, confusion, determination, I can see it all. My people have never seen anything like it. I'm just a normal human, Tejo said. No. Valera shook her head slowly. You are extraordinary. Your entire species is extraordinary. You just don't know it yet. She turned and walked back to her seat. Tejo watched her go, his heart beating fast. He still did not understand what was happening. He still did not know how this would end. But somewhere beneath his fear and confusion, something else was growing. Curiosity. Who were the Keth really? Why did they value expressions so much? What had made them a species of frozen faces? And why did Princess Valera look at him like he held the secrets of the universe? He did not have the answers yet, but he was going to find them. The courtship began the next morning. Kang Tejo arrived at the meeting room to find Princess Valera already waiting. She sat perfectly still, her hands folded in her lap, her dark eyes watching the door. When he entered, something in her posture changed, a slight straightening of her back, a small turn of her head. On any human, these would be tiny movements. But Tejo was learning that for the Keth, they meant everything. Good morning, he said carefully. Good morning, Valera replied. Please, sit. He sat across from her. Guards stood at every door, both human and Keth. Cameras recorded everything. There was no privacy here, but Tejo supposed that was the point. This was not just a courtship, it was a diplomatic event. I have prepared questions, Valera said. About your species. About your culture. Is this acceptable? Only if I can ask questions too. That was our agreement. She pulled out a small device and pressed a button. A hologram appeared between them, an image of Earth as seen from space. Your planet has one sun, one moon, and 7 billion people, she said. Yet you have thousands of different languages, hundreds of different nations, and countless different beliefs. How do you function? How do you not destroy each other? Tejo thought about the question. We do destroy each other sometimes. We've had many wars, many conflicts. But we also build. We create. We find ways to work together even when we disagree. It's not perfect, but we keep trying. Trying. Valera repeated the word like it was foreign. The Keth do not try. We succeed or we fail. There is no middle ground. That sounds exhausting. It is efficient. Tejo smiled before he could stop himself. Valera's eyes fixed on his mouth, watching the curve of his lips like it was the most fascinating thing she had ever seen. You do it so easily, she said softly. That expression. It comes to you like breathing. It does. It does. I never thought about it before meeting your people. Tell me what it feels like. Tejo paused. How did he explain his smile? It feels warm, happy, like sunlight inside your chest that rises up and spreads across your face. Sometimes it happens because something is funny. Sometimes because you see someone you care about. Sometimes for no reason at all. Valera was silent for a long moment. "We have those feelings," she finally said. "The warmth, the happiness. But they stay trapped inside. We cannot let them out. That sounds lonely. We do not know any other way." Their first session lasted 3 hours. Valera asked about human families, human art, human music. She seemed particularly fascinated by laughter, asking Taeho to describe it again and again. He did his best, but some things could not be captured in words. The next day, news came from the stars. The Emperor of the Keth Empire was coming to Earth personally. "This is bad," Sua told Taeho privately. "The Emperor is not coming to observe. He's coming to end this. His daughter choosing a human is an embarrassment to him. He will do everything in his power to break the bond." "Maybe that's a good thing," Taeho said. "If he breaks the bond, I'm free, and there's no insult." Sue shook her head. "It's not that simple. The Emperor cannot simply cancel his daughter's declaration that would make their laws look weak. Instead, he'll try to prove that you're unworthy, that humanity is unworthy. And if he proves it, then Earth gets blacklisted from the Galactic Concord forever. We'll be alone in the universe, while every other species advances together." The weight of it pressed down on Taeho's shoulders. He had never asked for this responsibility. He was just a translator who had smiled at the wrong moment. But the universe did not care about fairness. Emperor Dreth arrived 1 week later. His ship was even larger than the first one, a mountain of black metal that blocked out the sun when it descended. He emerged in robes of pure gold, surrounded by 100 guards. His face was like his daughter's, gray, expressionless, unreadable, but his eyes held something cold, something dangerous. "So this is the primitive who has corrupted my daughter," he said, looking at Taeho with clear contempt. Taeho bowed respectfully. "Your Majesty, I meant no offense. Among my people, a smile is simply a greeting." "I did not know." Silence. The Emperor's flat voice cut through the air. "I did not come here for excuses. I came here to see for myself what kind of creature you are." He circled Taeho slowly, studying him like a scientist examining a strange insect. "Soft skin, weak muscles, short lifespan. Tell me, human, what makes you worthy of a Keth princess? What makes your entire species worthy of the Galactic Concord?" "I don't know," Taeho admitted honestly. "But I'm trying to find out. Trying." The Emperor made a sound that might have been a laugh if his face could move. "My daughter used that same word. She has spent too much time with your kind already." He turned to face the assembled diplomats. "One invoke the ancient rite," he declared. "The trial of worth. This human will prove his value through 3 tests: mind, body, and spirit. If he fails even one, the bond is broken, and Earth will be forever forbidden from joining the Concord." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Taeho saw Sua's face go pale. "Father, this is not necessary." Valera stepped forward, but the Emperor silenced her with a look. "You made your choice, daughter. Now he must prove he deserves it. Unless you wish to admit that you were wrong?" Valera hesitated. Her dark eyes met Taeho's across the room. He gave her the smallest nod. "I'll do it," he said. "I'll take your tests." The Emperor turned back to him, something like surprise flickering in his cold eyes. "You accept? Just like that? You do not know what the trials involve. You do not know what you will face." "It doesn't matter," Taeho said. "If this is what it takes to prove humanity's worth, then I have to try. I might fail. I probably will fail. But I won't run away." The room was silent. Then Valera did something that shocked everyone. She stepped forward and stood beside Taeho. "Then I will stand with him," she said clearly. If he faces the trials, he does not face them alone. The Emperor's expressionless face somehow grew colder. You would defy me, daughter? I would support my bondmate, as our laws require. Father and daughter stared at each other. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut. Finally, the Emperor turned away. Very well. The trials will begin in 3 days. Prepare yourself, human. The Keth have never lost these challenges. You will be the first to fail. As the Emperor swept out of the room, Valera turned to Tai-Ho. Thank you, she said quietly, for not running. I thought about it, he admitted. I'm terrified. I know. I can see it on your face. She paused. But I can also see something else. What? Courage. Her voice softened. I am beginning to understand why your people's faces move so much. You feel everything so deeply. Fear and bravery exist in you at the same time. It is beautiful. Tai-Ho felt his cheeks warm. I'm not brave. I'm just stubborn. Perhaps that is the same thing. She reached out and touched his hand just for a moment. Just a brush of cool gray fingers against his warm skin. Then she walked away, leaving Tai-Ho to prepare for the greatest challenge of his life. 3 days to learn how to become worthy. 3 days to save humanity's future. He had no idea how he was going to do it, but he was going to try. On the second day before the trials, Princess Valera made an unusual request. I want to see your city, she said. Not the government buildings. Not the meeting rooms. The real city, where real humans live. The diplomats argued against it. The security teams protested. But Valera was a princess, and she was not asking for permission. She was making a statement. If he is to represent humanity in the trials, she said firmly, then I should understand what humanity truly is. And so, surrounded by guards both visible and hidden, Kang Tai-Ho walked through the streets of Seoul with an alien princess at his side. Thought it was a strange sight. People stopped and stared. Phones came out. Whispers followed them everywhere. But Valera paid no attention to the crowds. Her dark eyes were busy absorbing everything else. There is so much color, she said, looking at the bright signs, the glowing screens, the flowers sold on street corners. Keth cities are gray and white. Order and efficiency. Nothing like this. Do you like it? Valera considered the question. I do not know yet. It is overwhelming, but also alive, very alive. They walked past a street musician playing guitar on a corner. A small crowd had gathered, swaying and clapping along to the music. Valera stopped, frozen in place. What is happening? She asked. He's playing music. People are enjoying it. But they are moving. Their faces are changing. They are doing it together. Tai-Ho smiled. Yes, that's what music does. It brings people together. Valera watched for a long time. Her face remained expressionless, but her body leaned forward, almost hungry. We have music too, she said finally. But it is formal, structured. No one moves. No one shares joy like this. Would you like to get closer? She hesitated, then nodded. They moved through the crowd until they stood near the musician. He noticed them. It was impossible not to notice an alien princess, but he just smiled and kept playing. The music washed over them, warm and bright. A little girl tugged on her mother's sleeve, pointing at Valera. Mommy, why doesn't the gray lady smile? The mother looked horrified and tried to hush her child, but Valera knelt down to the girl's level. I cannot smile, she said gently. My face does not work that way. The little girl thought about this very seriously. Then she reached out and patted Valera's cheek. That's sad. Smiling feels really good, so I have been told. The girl's mother pulled her away, apologizing repeatedly, but Valera stood slowly. Something changed in her posture. Children speak truth, she said to Taiho, without fear of consequence. I find this remarkable. They continued walking. Valera noticed an elderly couple sitting on a bench, holding hands and watching the world go by. Their faces were weathered with age, lined with decades of expressions: laughter, sorrow, surprise, love. How long have they been together? Valera asked. I don't know. Maybe 40 or 50 years. Half a century. Holding hands like young lovers. She studied them with intense focus. Does this not grow boring? Some things don't get boring. Not if you love someone. Love. Valera spoke the word carefully. We have a similar concept. But it is about duty, about matches made for power and alliance. Not about holding hands on a bench. There's more than one kind of love, Taiho said. The love between parents and children. The love between friends. The love between two people who choose each other, not because they have to, but because they want to. Choice. Valera's voice was soft. Everything with you humans comes back to choice. They stopped at a small park where children were playing. A boy fell from the climbing structure and scraped his knee. He started crying, tears streaming down his face, his mouth open in a wail of pain. Valera tensed. He's leaking water from his eyes. He's crying. He's hurt and scared. How do you make it stop? Before Taiho could answer, the boy's mother rushed over. She gathered him in her arms, kissing his forehead, wiping his tears, making soft sounds of comfort. Within minutes, the boy was laughing, showing off his scrape like a badge of honor. He was in pain, Valera said, clearly confused. And now he is happy? So quickly? That's how humans work. We feel things deeply, but we also recover quickly. We cry, and then we laugh. We fall, and then we get back up. It's messy and confusing, but it's how we survive. Valera was silent for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was different, smaller, more vulnerable. We can feel things too, just as deeply, perhaps more deeply, because we have no way to release it. She touched her own face, her gray skin smooth and unchanging. When I was young, I was sad. So sad that I thought I would break apart. But no one could see it. No one knew. I carried it alone, trapped inside myself. Taiho felt his heart ache for her. That sounds terrible. It is what it is. We have no other way. He stopped walking and turned to face her. Maybe that's why you were so affected when I smiled. You've spent your whole life seeing people who look calm on the outside, even when they're screaming on the inside. And then suddenly, there I was wearing every feeling on my face like a sign. Valera's dark eyes met his. Yes, I saw your soul, Taiho. Not because you are special among humans, but because all humans are special. You cannot hide what you feel. Your faces are windows to your hearts. Sometimes that's embarrassing. Sometimes it is beautiful. They stood together in the fading afternoon light. Around them, the city continued its chaotic dance, people laughing, arguing, crying, living. I am afraid, Valera admitted suddenly. For tomorrow. For the trials. My father designed them to be impossible. He wants you to fail. I know. You might die. I know that too. And yet you still stand here, smiling at me. Taiho realized he was indeed smiling, a small, sad smile, but a smile nonetheless. Fear doesn't stop me from trying. That's the human way. Valera reached out and took his hand. Her skin was cool against his warmth, but the touch was gentle. I want to learn that way, she said. I want to learn to be brave like you. You're already brave. You're standing up to your father for someone you barely know. Someone I am beginning to know. She looked at their joined hands. Someone I am beginning to. She did not finish the sentence. But she did not let go either. That night, as Taeho tried to sleep before the trials, he thought about everything he had seen that day. The music, the crying child, the elderly couple, the princess who could not smile but felt. Everything. He was still terrified, but now he was also fighting for something more than just survival. He was fighting for the chance to show the galaxy what humanity truly was. And maybe, just maybe, to teach a princess that her frozen face did not mean a frozen heart. The morning of the trials arrived cold and gray. Kang Taeho stood in the center of a massive arena that the Keth had constructed overnight. Their technology was beyond anything humans had ever seen. Walls of light, floors that shifted like water, air that hummed with invisible energy. Thousands of people watched from the stands, both human and alien. Billions more watched from screens across the galaxy. Emperor Dreth sat on a raised platform, his gold robes glowing in the artificial light. Princess Valera sat below him, her face as still as ever. But Taeho had learned to read her body now. He could see the tension in her shoulders, the slight forward lean that meant worry. The trial of worth has 3 parts, the Emperor announced, his flat voice echoing through the arena. Mind, body, spirit. You must pass all 3 to prove humanity's value. Fail even one, and your species will be forever banned from the Galactic Concord. Taeho swallowed hard. I understand. The first trial is mind. You will face a strategic simulation against a Keth champion. Our champions have never lost. The game will test logic, planning, and intelligence. A tall Keth male stepped into the arena. His name was Kethmorn, and he was said to be the greatest strategic mind in the Empire. His expressionless face radiated cold confidence. A holographic game board appeared between them. It was complex, hundreds of pieces, multiple levels, rules that shifted every few moves. Taeho had been given only one night to study it. Kethmorn had been playing it for 100 years. Begin, the Emperor commanded. The first few minutes were a disaster. Taeho lost piece after piece. Kethmorn moved with perfect efficiency, exploiting every weakness, predicting every strategy. The Keth champion was playing chess while Taeho was still learning which pieces could move where in the stands. Sua covered her eyes. He's going to lose. It's impossible. But then something changed. Taeho stopped trying to win. Instead, he started trying to survive. He made moves that made no logical sense, sacrificing valuable pieces, giving up strong positions, retreating when he should attack. Kethmorn paused. For the first time, he seemed confused. What are you doing? He asked. These moves are irrational. I know. Taeho smiled. That's the point. Human history was full of battles won by the unexpected. Generals who retreated to victory. Leaders who surrendered to survive. The Keth thought in straight lines. Taeho thought in circles. He bluffed. He feinted. He pretended to be weaker than he was, then struck when Kethmorn overextended. He used psychology instead of pure logic, reading his opponent's confusion and exploiting it. It was not pretty. It was not elegant. But slowly and possibly, Taeho began to gain ground. The final move came after 2 hours. Taeho positioned his last piece in a spot that seemed completely meaningless. Kethmorn studied the board, calculating every possibility. I do not understand, the champion admitted. This move has no logical purpose. Sometimes the best move is the one that can't be predicted. Kethmorn made what seemed like the obvious counter. And in doing so, he walked directly into Taeho's trap. 3 moves later, the game was over. The arena was silent. Then the humans in the crowd erupted into cheers. Emperor Dreth's expressionless face somehow darkened. Luck, nothing more. The second trial will not be so kind. The trial of body was held in a chamber that could simulate any environment. For Taeho, They chose extremes burning heat that shifted to freezing cold, thin air that made every breath a struggle, ground that shifted beneath his feet. He had to walk a path through this nightmare. A simple task. If you were Keth, their bodies were designed for efficiency, their systems adjusting automatically to any condition. Taeho was not designed for this. Within minutes, his legs burned. His lungs screamed. Sweat poured from his skin, then froze when the temperature dropped. Every step was agony. The other competitors finished the course in under an hour. Taeho was still stumbling forward at the 2-hour mark. "Give up," the Emperor called down. "You have proven nothing but your weakness." Taeho could barely hear him. His vision was blurring. His muscles had stopped obeying his commands. Every part of him wanted to fall, to surrender, to let the darkness take him. But he thought about Valera, about the way she had held his hand, about the trapped feelings inside her frozen face. He thought about humanity, about all the people who had survived impossible things, wars, famines, disasters, and kept going anyway. He thought about his grandmother, who had walked through winter during the war, carrying his infant mother, refusing to stop even when her feet bled. Humans were not the fastest. They were not the strongest. But they were the species that never stopped. Taeho crawled. His hands were raw. His knees were scraped through his clothing. He left a trail of blood on the shifting ground. But he kept moving, inch by inch, minute by minute. The Keth watched in disbelief. They had never seen anything continue through pure willpower. Their bodies knew when to stop. It was efficient. This human was not stopping, even though every signal said he should. 3 hours. 4 hours. 5. When Taeho finally crossed the finish line, he collapsed face first onto the ground. He was the last competitor by far. By any objective measure, he had performed the worst. But he had finished. The arena was dead silent. Then, slowly, a sound began. The humans were clapping. Not cheering, not shouting, just clapping, a rhythmic acknowledgement of something they all understood. The will to survive. The refusal to quit. Emperor Dreth stared down at the broken human on the ground. For the first time, something other than contempt flickered in his dark eyes. "The third trial will begin tomorrow," he said quietly. "The trial of spirit. Prepare yourself, human. It will be the worst of all." That night, Valera came to see Taeho in the medical bay. He lay on a bed, bandaged and exhausted, barely able to keep his eyes open. But when she entered, he managed a weak smile. "You came." "I had to." She stood beside his bed, looking down at him with those dark, unreadable eyes. "You should have died today. The doctors say your body was pushed beyond all safe limits." "I know. Why did you not stop?" "Because stopping was never an option." Valera was quiet for a long moment. Then she did something she had never done before. She tried to smile. It was awkward. Her face was not built for it. Her lips barely moved, just a tiny twitch at the corners. It looked wrong, almost painful, but it was everything. "I practiced," she said softly. "All night. I wanted to show you something before tomorrow." Taeho felt tears prick in his eyes. "It's beautiful. It is broken and wrong." "No." He reached out and took her hand, despite his aching muscles. "It's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen." They stayed like that until he fell asleep, her cool hand in his warm one, her almost smile still trembling on her gray face. Tomorrow he would face his greatest fear, but tonight he had seen an alien princess learn to smile, and that was worth everything. The trial of spirit was held in a small, dark room. There was no arena, no crowd. Just Kang Taeho standing alone before a strange machine that hummed with alien energy. Emperor Dreth and a handful of observers watched through a window of thick glass. "This device will read your mind," the Emperor explained. his flat voice echoing through speakers. It will find your deepest fear, the thing that terrifies you most in all the universe, and then it will make you live it. Taeho's throat went dry. For how long? Until you break, or until you overcome it. The Emperor paused. No one has ever overcome it. The greatest warriors of 100 species have entered this trial. All of them have broken. What happens when they break? Their minds shatter. They become empty. Some recover in time. Most do not. Taeho looked at the machine. It was smooth and silver, beautiful in a terrible way. Behind the glass, he could see Valera standing rigid, her hands pressed against the window. "Can I say something first?" he asked. "Before it starts?" The Emperor gestured impatiently. "Speak." Taeho turned toward Valera. "If I don't come back from this, if I come back broken, I want you to know something." He took a deep breath. "I'm glad I met you. I'm glad I smiled at you. Even if everything ends badly, I wouldn't change it." Valera's hand pressed harder against the glass. Her mouth moved, but no sound came through. Taeho faced the machine. "Okay, I'm ready." The world disappeared. He was standing in his apartment. Everything looked normal. The messy desk, the worn couch, the photos on the wall. But something was wrong. The silence was too deep, too complete. "Hello?" He called out. No answer. He walked to the window and looked outside. Seoul was empty. No cars, no people, no movement. Just buildings standing silent under a gray sky. He ran downstairs and into the street. "Hello, anyone? Is anyone there?" His voice echoed between the empty towers and faded into nothing. He searched for hours, days, weeks. Time moved strangely in this place, stretching and compressing like taffy. He walked through empty streets, empty buildings, an empty world. There was no one. Everyone he had ever known was gone. Suo, his family, his colleagues, all of humanity vanished like they had never existed. He was the last person in the universe, alone forever, with no one to talk to, no one to touch, no one to smile at. His deepest fear was loneliness. Not death, not pain, but isolation. Being forgotten, being left behind while the world moved on without him. The machine knew, and it made him live it. Years passed in the simulation. Taeho wandered the empty earth, talking to himself just to hear a voice. He wrote messages on walls that no one would read. He screamed at the silent sky until his throat bled. The loneliness ate at him like acid. It wore away his hope, his strength, his sense of self. He began to forget what other people looked like. He began to forget his own name. In the observation room, the Emperor watched with cold satisfaction. His mind is crumbling. Soon he will be nothing. Valera stared at the screen showing Taeho's brain activity. The readings were chaotic, terrifying. He was dying in there, not his body, but his soul. "Stop this," she demanded. "Father, stop this now. The trial continues until he breaks or overcomes. Those are the rules. You know this. He will die." Then he was never worthy. Inside the simulation, Taeho had stopped moving. He sat in the middle of an empty street, staring at nothing. The loneliness had won. There was no point in fighting anymore. He would sit here until he forgot how to exist. But then, in the corner of his vision, something moved. He turned his head slowly, expecting nothing, hoping for nothing. And he saw a flower, a single dandelion, pushing up through a crack in the concrete. Yellow and bright, trembling slightly in a wind he could not feel. Something stirred in Taeho's chest. This was not real. He knew that. The machine was creating his fears, but the fears were based on his own mind. And his mind, even in its darkest moment, had created something else. Hope. He crawled toward the flower. His body was weak, his spirit shattered. but he kept moving. When he reached it, he touched the yellow petals with trembling fingers. "I'm still here," he whispered. "Even if no one else is. I'm still here." And he began to cry. The tears flowed freely, grief for everyone he had lost, pain from years of solitude, fear of the emptiness that stretched in all directions. He cried until he had nothing left, but he did not break. Instead, he stood up. "I am Kan Tae-ho," he said aloud. "I am a translator. I am a son, a friend, a human being. I have loved and been loved. I have laughed and cried and lived." He walked forward, even though there was nowhere to go. "I am afraid of being alone. But fear is not the same as defeat. I can be afraid and still keep walking. I can be broken and still keep going." With each step, the empty world around him began to crack. Light spilled through the fractures, golden and warm. "I choose to hope," Tae-ho said. "Even when there is no reason to hope. Even when the darkness is everywhere. I choose to believe that tomorrow might be better." The world shattered like glass. Tae-ho opened his eyes. He was lying on the floor of the small room, the machine dark and silent beside him. Every muscle in his body ached. His face was wet with real tears. But he was whole. The observation window was crowded with faces human, and Keth alike, all staring at him in stunned silence. "Emperor." Dreth's flat voice came through the speakers, but for the first time, it held something other than contempt. "You overcame it. That is impossible. No species has ever. Humans are stubborn," Tae-ho said weakly, managing a small smile. "We don't know when to quit." The door burst open and Valera ran to his side. She dropped to her knees beside him, her cool hands touching his face, his shoulders, assuring herself that he was real. "You came back," she said. "You went into the darkness and you came back. I had a reason to come back." Their eyes met. In the doorway, Emperor Dreth watched them, something shifting behind his expressionless mask. "How?" the Emperor asked. "My best warriors have fallen to that trial." How did a primitive human survive? Tae-ho thought about the question. Because we know how to feel everything and still keep going. Fear, grief, loneliness. They don't stop us. They're part of us. We carry them and we keep walking anyway. He looked at Valera, at her almost smile still struggling, at the corners of her gray lips. That's what makes us human. The Emperor was silent for a long moment. Then he turned and walked away without another word. But Tae-ho saw something in his posture, the same tells he had learned to read in Valera. The rigid certainty had cracked. The cold confidence had wavered. For the first time, the Emperor of the Kath was uncertain. And uncertainty, Tae-ho knew, was the first step toward change. The ceremony was held at sunset, when Seoul's sky turned orange and gold. Thousands of people had gathered in the plaza where, just weeks ago, Kang Tae-ho had smiled at a stumbling princess and changed the course of history. Now he stood on a raised platform, cleaned and healed, wearing a simple dark suit that Sua had insisted looked appropriately historic. Beside him stood Princess Valera, her purple robes flowing in the evening breeze. And before them both stood Emperor Dreth, his gold robes catching the fading light. The galaxy watched. Billions of beings across 1,000 worlds waited to hear the verdict. "I have ruled the Keth Empire for 300 years," the Emperor began, his flat voice carrying across the silent crowd. "In that time, I have conquered worlds, crushed rebellions, and built an empire that spans the stars. I have never met a species I considered my equal." He paused, and something shifted in his vibe. Posture, something Tae-ho now recognized as discomfort, uncertainty. Until now, a murmur rippled through the crowd. This human passed all 3 trials, the Emperor continued. He defeated our greatest strategic mind through unpredictability. He survived physical trials through pure will. And he overcame the trial of spirit, something no being in recorded history has ever done. He turned to face Taiho directly. I designed those trials to be impossible for your kind. I wanted to prove that humanity was primitive, unworthy of the Galactic Concord. I wanted to take my daughter away from this strange creature, who had captured her attention with nothing but a simple movement of his face. The Emperor's hands clenched at his sides. I was wrong. The words fell like stones into still water. Your species is not what I expected. You are soft where we are hard. You are chaotic where we are ordered. You wear your feelings on your faces like banners, hiding nothing. In every way that matters to the Keth, you are inferior. Taiho felt his jaw tighten, but he said nothing. And yet, the Emperor continued, you did what we cannot. You adapted. You endured. You felt fear and pain and loneliness, and instead of breaking, you used those feelings as fuel. You turned weakness into strength. He looked at Valera. My daughter tried to smile last night. I saw her in her chambers, practicing before a mirror. It was the most disturbing thing I have ever witnessed. A pause. It was also the most beautiful. Valera's eyes widened slightly, the Keth equivalent of shock. For 3,000 years, we Keth have believed that our frozen faces were a sign of superiority. We controlled our emotions. We did not let them control us. But watching this human, watching my daughter learn from him, I begin to wonder if we have been wrong. The Emperor turned back to the crowd. Perhaps there is strength in feeling. Perhaps there is power in tears and laughter and the simple movement of lips that means happiness. Perhaps the light of the soul in our ancient texts was not just legend, but prophecy. He raised his hand, and a holographic seal appeared in the air, the official symbol of the Galactic Concord. By my authority as representative of the Keth Empire, I hereby declare that humanity has passed the trial of worth. Earth is granted full membership in the Galactic Concord, with all rights and privileges therein. The crowd exploded, cheering, crying. Laughing humans releasing everything they had held in during weeks of tension and fear. Cameras flashed. People embraced strangers. Somewhere in the distance, fireworks burst against the darkening sky. Tay-Ho stood frozen, unable to believe it was real. Then Sua was there, throwing her arms around him, tears streaming down her face. You did it! You actually did it! We did it! Taiho said, his voice hoarse. All of us. He looked for Valera, but she had stepped back, giving him space to celebrate with his own people. The Emperor was speaking to her quietly, their conversation hidden from the crowd. When things finally calmed, Valera approached him. Her father had departed, returning to his ship with the promise of formal alliance negotiations to come. He apologized to me, she said quietly, so only Taiho could hear. In private. Here's the first time he has apologized for anything in 2 centuries. That's good, isn't it? It is a beginning. She looked at the celebrating humans around them. Everything is a beginning now. Taiho took a deep breath. So what happens next? With us, I mean. The courtship, the bond, you said I don't have to accept it now that I've passed the trials. That is true. You have proven humanity's worth. The bond can be dissolved without insult. Is that what you want? Valera was silent for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was softer than he had ever heard it. I chose you because you smiled at me. A stranger showed me kindness when I was embarrassed, and his face lit up with warmth that I had never seen before. In that moment, I felt less alone than I had felt in my entire life. She reached out and took his hand. But I do not want to hold you to something you never intended. You did not ask for this. You were simply being human. Tejo looked at their joined hands, his warm and brown, hers cool and gray. He thought about everything they had been through together. The diplomatic sessions where she had asked endless questions about laughter. The walk through Seoul where she had watched a crying child with wonder. The night before the final trial when she had tried to smile for him. "I didn't ask for this," he agreed. "But maybe the best things in life are the ones we don't ask for." Valera tilted her head. "What do you mean?" Tejo smiled at her, a full, warm, genuine smile. "I mean that I think I'd like to get to know you better. Not because of ancient laws or diplomatic obligations. Because I want to. Because you're the most interesting person I've ever met, even if you can't move your face." Something changed in Valera's eyes. Something bright and hopeful. "That is acceptable," she said. And then, slowly, carefully, she tried to smile again. It was still awkward. Still wrong by Kef standards. But it was growing stronger, more natural, like a muscle learning to move for the first time. "We have much to teach each other," she said. "Yes." Starting with that smile. He grinned. "We need to practice a lot more." "Is that an excuse to spend more time with me?" "Absolutely." Valera made a sound that might, in 1,000 years of practice, become a laugh. Around them, the celebration continued. Humans and Keth mingling, curious and cautious, but open to possibility. The first steps of a relationship that would reshape the galaxy. Su-A appeared at Tejo's shoulder. "The news networks want an interview. What should I tell them?" Tejo looked at Valera, at her almost smile, at her dark eyes full of emotions that her face could not express. "Tell them I'm busy," he said. "Tell them humanity's ambassador has important diplomatic work to do." "What kind of work?" "Teaching an alien princess how to smile. It might take a while." He took Valera's hand and led her away from the crowds, away from the cameras and the noise. They walked through the streets of Seoul as the stars appeared overhead. The same stars that now belong to humanity as much as to any other species. "Tao," Valera said as they walked. "Thank you." "For what?" "For being human. For not hiding what you feel. For showing me that there is another way to exist." He squeezed her hand. "Thank you for choosing me. Even if it was an accident, it was not an accident." Her voice was certain. "I know now that nothing about meeting you was an accident." They stopped on a quiet bridge overlooking the river. The city lights reflected on the water, turning it into a mirror of stars. "The galaxy is watching us," Valera said. "They want to see what happens when a human and a Keth try to build something together. Then let's give them a good show." He turned to face her, taking both her hands in his. "I'm going to teach you how to smile properly," he said. "And laugh. And cry. All the things your people have forgotten how to do. And I will teach you about the stars," she replied. "About the 1,000 worlds and the billion species and the endless wonders that await you." Deal. And there, on a bridge in Seoul, as the first night of humanity's new future stretched overhead, Kang Tae-ho smiled at the alien princess who had changed his life. And this time, she smiled back. It was small. It was imperfect. But it was real. And across the galaxy, watching through satellites and sensors and quantum links. 1,000 species witnessed something they had never seen before. A Keth princess. Smiling. They would tell stories about it for centuries. The moment everything changed. The moment a human showed the galaxy that the greatest power in the universe was not weapons or technology or conquering armies. It was a smile. Just a simple smile. And the courage to share it with the stars.